Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to this two-part Invincible Love training where I'm going to be walking you through some very powerful keys to creating a blueprint for relationship readiness, repair, and sacred union. So in this training, I'm going to be guiding you through part one, the keys to invincible love, choosing healing, and aligning for sacred union. This is going to be a very powerful foundation that's going to help you heal your pain, that is perpetuating, the patterns that are affecting your relationships, can help anchor you into truth and create love that's spiritually aligned, emotionally clear, and deeply fulfilling. So in my experience, I see that most of us have been building our relationships on very broken blueprints, but wondering why we keep attracting the wrong people. We're getting sucked into emotional entanglements, experiencing breakdowns in communication, and ultimately finding our relationships and ourselves falling apart completely. One of the most profound and potentially painful parts of our lives involves our most intimate relationship experiences. Our relationships can either bless us or they can end up breaking us. And I've experienced both the blessing and the breaking. And I'm going to share with you some extremely empowering distinctions that can help you clean up the past pain, find power in this present moment, and prepare for a very profound future around the domain of intimacy and love. So I think it's important for me to share that I've grown up under some very abusive conditions, watching what my mother went through with her boyfriends and ultimately her second husband. I've been engaged and, broken off the engagement. I've been married and divorced. I've experienced the extreme highs and lows of what's possible in relationship. It can be extremely pleasurable and extremely painful. And over the years, I've dug really deep into my own profound and painful relationship experiences. I've brought light to the darkness. I have faced and embraced my most painful experiences. I've turned them into power to then transform and transcend into what I'm calling invincible love. I've got over 25 years of actively investigating, researching, exploring, and serving others within the area of relationships. I love this area. It's a deep passion of mine because I want to save people from the pain and the struggles and the hardships that I've been through, or at least help them navigate it if they're there now. So I have a lot to reveal here. So make sure you're comfortable, you're ready to dive in. This training is going to be especially important if you're a coach, a healer, or some visionary leader who's ever struggled with love that's been misaligned or painful or confusing. Transforming your past and your present and future relationships empowers you to avoid the many pitfalls of relationship, which can ruin your career, as it has done in my life more than once. It also can equip you to support your clients who need breakthroughs in the domain of relationship. This is a big area. And that supports other domains of life that your clients or the people that you serve are always impacted by. So let's take a moment to just settle in, take a deep breath together. Into the body, feeling into the body, and allow that breath to settle you down and relax and be here with me fully and completely. Just exhaling and softening, exhaling and softening. Let's take another deep breath in. We're going to exhale and soften, just letting go of anything that was happening prior to this moment. Clear some space for you to fully engage, to fully immerse yourself. Take another breath through the nose in. And then through the mouth, exhale. Relaxing, softening, deeper. Good. Take a deep breath in and hold this breath at the top. And just hold it. Relax the body though. Feel the breath in the lungs. Feel the fullness inside of you. Soften the body. Swallow your saliva and feel the saliva run down to the belly. Just pay attention to that process. Now lips into a pinhole and slowly release the air. And just take a moment in the silence. Good. We're creating a clear foundation to prepare you to really be immersed, as I said, in this training experience. To get the most out of it, the more clear-minded you are, the more regulated your nervous system is, the greater the capacity to learn, to explore, and to implement what it is that I'll be sharing with you here. Now, by the end of this live stream, you're going to walk away with a complete part 1 of the relationship blueprint framework, which is for relationship readiness, repair, and then realizing sacred union. What you're going to gain here is clarity on what needs to shift internally before sacred love is possible. You're going to gain insight into why you keep repeating painful patterns and what there is to do about that. And you're going to get a fresh path towards divine alignment, which leads to emotional maturity and ultimately limitless love. So I invite you to continue and stick around all the way to the end, because I'm going to be leading a guided activation that's going to actually help you connect with your superconscious intelligence, the divine power and wisdom already within you, but often latent or dormant. This is going to help you release old patterns and then align with your true center for deeper healing, expanded vision, and the experience of sacred union within. So if you're here live, or even if you're watching a replay or this is complete, go ahead and say hey in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And throughout the training, please feel free to drop any questions, insights, or aha moments. I got my chat window open so I can see. I'll do my best to engage as I can. It helps me to know who's here, to feel your presence, to tune into you and your energy. Even if it's later in a replay, your comments matter. I'll be able to see those. Other people will see. And it supports each other when you comment and when you share your experience. People feel like they're not alone when they read what it is that you're sharing. So I invite you to practice that for your own processing and also for the support of others, and also to keep me nourished by knowing that you're here, and it allows me to keep the enthusiasm and excitement for creating and communicating with you. Hey, welcome. Dream Solutions. I love that. Lucky 7 Adventures. I love all these YouTube names. Leah, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Connor. Yeah, buddy. Awesome. Good to see you, man. It's good to have you. This is going to be a wonderful opportunity, and I'm excited to take you and myself deeper. So I'm going to begin by revealing 3 keys in this training to building this invincible love blueprint. This is something I've developed over 26 years. I've got relationships in the background and lots of mistakes inside of them, and challenges and troubles, but also lots of successes and wins and adjustments and corrections. And so I've culminated all of that experience and utilize it with my coaching and training wisdom and practice to help create an experiential training here right now that we're going to go through together. So this will be something for you to engage with. This is not just a lecture on information. This information is designed to open up spaces within you of greater awareness of you, yourself, your history, your pains, your conflicts and challenges, things that have been hidden, that have been lurking in the background. So as you listen with an opening, listen with an experiential access to yourself as a possibility. Okay? Beautiful. So Connor's saying, I just set a certain intention for myself less than a week ago for calling and creating deeply fulfilling and empowering intimate relationship. I must have felt that because this was not on my agenda, but now I'm doing a 2-part series, which is an introduction to a 6-week training to go way more in depth for those that are interested. So I'm glad to hear that. Jenny and Tadas, love you both very much. Welcome here. Thank you. Sending love from Bell River. I receive it. Sending love back from Toronto. Bless you. All right. So I'm excited to have you all here. We're going to go right in now. So next week, I'm going to be revealing 3 more keys. Okay. So we'll start with 3. And each of the keys relate to a part of the 6-week training. If that's something that intrigues you, no pressure from me. It's an open invitation. I know there are people who need this, who are ready to experience this, who are ready to put the time and energy in to really transform from the inside to produce a beautiful outside in relationship. And it's my passion to take my pain and turn it into a purpose that's meaningful and pleasurable by sharing it with others to learn from and grow. I've been able to have amazing breakthroughs because of these insights that I'm going to share with you. And it has completely turned my love life around. And I'm blessed to be able to share this with others in a meaningful and effective way. So these are, as I mentioned, part of the 6-week deep dive transformational training that'll be coming up in a few weeks. And there's all kinds of experiential training happening there. There's interactive dynamic coaching, power partner processes and accountability, and group support. So if you like this, you may want to consider that. And if you're just here for tonight, wanting to dive into this in the next part, feel free to do so as well. There's no obligation at all. This is going to be a complete training in and of itself, and it's going to be completely powerful and will do you some serious good in the realm of relationships. So let's dive right into key number one. Key number one is you're not choosing love. You're actually repeating familiarity. Most people believe that they're making conscious choices in love, and it's important for us to really examine whether this is true or not. I find that most of us are actually unconsciously choosing from these deeply hidden factors that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes that are buried underneath our many strategies and efforts to avoid such factors. The source of attraction in us is actually invisible, something we're not conscious of. And whatever the source of our attraction is, that's what determines the type of relationship we attract, the kind of dynamics we experience within the relationship, and what's going to happen in the future of our relationship. So why is it that so many good-hearted, well-meaning, and loving people, like I was myself many, many years ago before I started my first major relationship, why is it that we find ourselves in relationship with the so-called narcissist, or the emotionally unavailable person, or someone who ends up straying, or a partnership that's filled with conflict, or maybe even abuse, or one that just goes completely cold? Well, these are questions that I was asking myself for many years, and I have discovered some profound insights to help us all navigate this together. When we go through this kind of painful dynamic in relationship, we naturally will assume that it's their fault, this other person. We default to the blame game. It's just the way it goes initially. We interacted with them, and this interaction was painful, and we were fine until they came into our lives, right? Or when I'm on my own, I'm fine. It's when they're here that this is happening. Well, this is what I did. This is how I thought for many years. Even after about 10 years after my divorce, I still struggled with this blame thing. My perspective was, if she was different, if she wasn't the way she was. And then I began to apply, and mind you, it was about 10 years of being open to the possibility of responsibility for being cause over everything in my life. I had that perspective as a possibility, but within 10 years after the marriage separation, the divorce, I still didn't have that understood. I was still very much living a blame game. And it was very negatively affecting all areas of my life, which forced me, actually, the minute I left that relationship, I began driving into understanding what the heck was I missing, because it was so much chaos, so much pain, so much confusion. And that began my real digging into relationship dynamics. And then that led me to my own personal internal dynamics in a way deeper way. And this is all born from that, which I'm about to share with you. So we're fine until the people come into our lives, right? We're fine until we interact with them. We're fine until they do or be, right? Whatever it is that they're being and doing. The problem with this perspective is that, number one, it's very deceptive. It's just an outright lie. And number two, it's extremely disempowering. So we identify as the victim, that we're helpless, powerless, but this innocent person inside of a relationship, right? The story that we make up, whatever that story looks like, that involves us being a victim, gives us this false sense of relief for the moment, at least. Also, it gives us this meaningful explanation that helps us survive some very confusing and chaotic and painful conditions. We don't want to feel bad and wrong in ourselves. That's a horrible thing to experience, right? It's just overwhelming. So we escape that what we felt so intensely in the relationship to this person by polarizing heavily and turning all the blame upon them. So it's quite natural to do this as a survival strategy. It's quite human. It's not a great strategy. It's not the best way to handle this. It ultimately comes with consequences and costs that we may not realize, but we can break free from that and navigate out of that. Like I said, I had 10 years of living under that heavy iron dome of like blame and irresponsibility before completely cracking the code and breaking free from that. So I understand why we do this, but there's a big problem when we do it. It ends up also crystallizing an identity at a core level around that story. And this ends up leading to repeating the familiarity. Now, if we haven't separated from the relationship and we're creating this identity of victimization in our relationship dynamic, right? Once that anchors, once we have not processed our pain fully and the conflict fully, we haven't done the necessary repair and restore in the relationship, we are going to invert this story, and this new identity starts to form that I'm a victim and this person has hurt me and I don't like this, that, and the other. And we start developing this resistance and this make wrong, and a whole identity structure literally is there. And it controls the way we perceive this person, and how we perceive is causing us to relate to this person in a particular way. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But the actual source of this pattern that we're having in the relationship existed before this relationship started. But the relationship confirms the identity, actually. The identity was already there to some degree. It seems like it's developing in the relationship because that's what we're more aware of. We're less conscious, or maybe not conscious at all, of the previous years of our life where this actual identity structure developed, the one of being a victim, the one where we could start to be woundable, vulnerable, and severely affected by the person we've chosen to be in an intimate relationship with. And like I said, the relationship pain and the chaos just confirms this identity unless we transform it. And if we don't transform it, we're actually doomed to repeat it. And I say doomed because we are. There's no hope of getting into any relationship that's going to be any different than the content of our internal world, right? Can allow or accepts. These are core convictions. They're convictions like certainties, and they're convictions like death sentences. Like, we have determined we are a victim. We determined we are broken. We determined we are woundable, and we're so sure about it. And this affects us dramatically. So we attract what is familiar then, right? What's familiar to this identity, which was already there even as early in childhood, which is, what we're really used to feeling at a deeper level. Two of my relationships were both directly connected to the painful and chaotic dynamics that I experienced with my mother and my stepdad in their relationship for about 12 years. And then also even with my real dad. The women that I was attracted to felt very familiar. I remember one of them feeling like I remember when I cuddled with her on the beach the first time, it felt like home. I mean, it was just home. But these relationships turned out to be very strong reflections of the unhealed dynamic of my past parental pain and relationship. So we have to be examining ourselves very carefully. And unfortunately, most of us don't receive the tools, the training, the guidance. There's really little out in the world. There's definitely nothing in school preparing us for these functions within and how things unfold in relationship, or even what to do or how to handle these relationship conflicts and breakdowns. So there are 4 places that we end up choosing relationships from, 3 of which guarantee a painful end. Okay, we're going to run into a painful destination sooner or later. We may be able to transform that in a relationship if we apply the tools I'm about to share with you in this training and the next week training and so on. But if not, these 3 out of the 4 will guarantee a very painful confrontation eventually. The first one is fear. The second one is fantasy. The third one is trauma. The 4th place we can choose relationship from is truth. When fear, fantasy, or trauma is the source of our attraction, the place that we're quote unquote choosing from, right, where we're choosing this relationship from, well, you don't really need me to tell you what happens. I guess you already know what happens. Let's just look at your relationships as they have been. You've seen what happens. It's not pleasant to say the least. Fear at the core of our being, right? This fear of like losing someone, fear of being abandoned, fear of being rejected, fear of being hurt. When there's a core conviction that we've been through this and we're afraid of having it happen again, we pull it into our experience all over again, in some way, shape, or form. And usually it's through the intimate relationship. Now, when there's fantasy, fantasy is a way that we avoid fear, and it's a way that we avoid pain. In fantasy, we are coloring and overlaying an image on top of this other person, and we're creating internal psychological and emotional addictions, chemistry that we're literally creating. Now, I come from a drug addicted background, and I've worked in drug rehabs for many, many years, probably like 5 years. And I've explored this area intimately. Well, I found out that the greatest addictions that human beings are struggling with are not chemicals that they ingest from the outside. We actually produce chemistry within ourselves, and we don't know it. We have no idea that we're doing this or how it works for the most part, because there's been very little education about this. I've spent a lot of years researching and digging into this because this is my domain. This is what I wanted to learn. This is what I wanted to know, because the pain was driving me bonkers. I had to figure this out. And that's the investigator type 5 in the Enneagram for me. Like, I just need to know, how does it work and why did it happen? You know? And so the good thing about that is that I figured out there's this internal neurochemistry and biochemistry that's running all the time. But in relationship, it takes on a different flavor. And through relationship, we're stimulating all kinds of chemistry. Now, we talk about that when it comes to attraction. We talk about chemistry, like having chemistry with that person, right? Those good feelings. But chemistry, man, it's very superficial, to be honest. Even though it's invisible from the most part, we feel what's happening, but we don't understand the mechanism of chemistry. Okay. Now I've got some understanding about it after all these years. And when we lack understanding about this chemistry, it can cause us great pain. So fantasy is a way that we actually create our own chemistry of pleasure. All right, I'll keep it simple. I won't get too technical, but just know that fantasy is a strategy for creating our own pleasure. We fantasize about our partner. We fantasize about who they are for us, who they will be for us. I've done this. This is a big one for me, right? And I didn't understand that I was doing this. And my fantasies and my fantasy bubbles were broken. Thanks, Connor. And Fatherpreneur Legacy. Yeah, thank you for being here. And this fantasy bubble that we create, it feeds us like a heroin addiction. Every time we run the fantasy, it's like we get an injection of this really awesome chemical that makes us feel like we're good, right? But the problem is it's not connected to reality. And so I had fantasy over relationships I was in, and then that fantasy was proven false, right? Why or how? Because of the dynamic. This person actually wasn't what I was projecting over them or into them to be. And if you're someone who's experienced this, just comment fantasy below. I would love for you to just share that. So other people too, seeing this later maybe, will know, hey, I'm not alone, because it's painful to come to realize this. I'm laughing about it now, but in the moment and the times that I was going through, the years, I should say, it was way more a long moment, but it's very painful to come face to face with that. It's not easy to acknowledge fantasy because we're trying very desperately to avoid pain through that fantasizing. All right, so trauma. The third part is any painful or overwhelming experience we've been through in the past that we've never fully processed. Our nervous system is dysregulated. Big time fantasy comes in. Our nervous system is so dysregulated, and we have never completed what's called the nervous system stress response cycle, which is where we play out the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or flop responses. 5 responses to try and survive painful and overwhelming experiences. When we can't fully cycle those through in action successfully during a painful and overwhelming experience, we're left with what is called trauma. Trauma is not what happens to us, it's the residual impact, right? What's left over, the unprocessed experience, which is a dysregulated nervous system in that moment, suppression of these forces, and the inability to comprehend or digest whatever it is that we've been through. When that just sits in us dormant and latent over the years, well, it becomes a source or point of attraction. And when we attract from trauma, right, we think we're choosing a relationship, but we're really choosing from fear, fantasy, or trauma, those 3 that cause great harm and trouble in relationship. But we can choose from the 4th one when we get conscious after we do the work within, from truth. And we'll talk about how to get there in a little bit. So there was never really a choice at all in most of our relationship experiences. We think we're choosing, but we're actually being governed and run by these unconscious conditions and this unconscious chemistry. It's literally a compulsion driven by our effort to get deeply unmet needs fulfilled. Okay? When I speak about all this, please know that I'm speaking straight to you. This is my confession. Okay? This is what I've discovered, and I've got language to articulate my own invisible dynamics at the time that led to great pain and suffering for me. And my desire and pursuit of understanding has led me to discover what the frick was going on. All right. So I'm languaging for you my confession and my discoveries. Okay. So I'm the first person to go through all of this here. All right. So I'm not, putting anybody here on the spot for anything, starting with myself first. I'm inviting you into this exploration and this conversation with me so that you can get breakthroughs where you need it. So this compulsion that's driven by our effort to get deeply unmet needs fulfilled causes us a lot of problems. They're entirely invisible until we do the work within. Now, since most of us are trying to present the best image of ourselves at the start of a relationship and then hide the ugly parts, we establish a hugely inauthentic and superficial foundation for the relationship. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, okay? Here's a simple metaphor. Imagine that your relationship is, in your mind, designed to be a sacred temple, right? The two of you come together and you're this beautiful dwelling place for the divine, a place of beauty and safety, for devotion and for truth. But imagine that you've been building that temple on a cracked or maybe non-existent foundation that's all formed from past pain, unconscious patterns, unresolved trauma. It does not matter how amazing the design is, how stunning it is, because whatever you build on top of a cracked foundation, it's going to add a lot of weight and a lot of pressure, and eventually it's all going to collapse. And what we end up doing is trying to build these relationships. We start stacking one layer of block of the temple upon another. We put pillars in, we put block in, we start to put a roof on it, right? But the foundation was never secure in the first place, and eventually the relationship comes crumbling down. Go ahead and comment crumble if you've experienced this in your life. I've got a bunch of crumbles that I could crumble, 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 crumble. I could put a few crumbles in there, all right? For real. Whew. But real love is not built around decoration and beautiful design. It's built on excavation first, truth, and a foundation that's strong enough to hold your highest vision. But if we haven't done the work of excavation on the ground or within the ground of our own being, we're not going to be able to establish that solid foundation upon which to build the sacred union. I come from a construction background. It was something I started in my early 20s, 21 years old. And I literally had the opportunity to build an entire house from the ground up, including the foundation. And the first thing that we do is we excavate, right? We clear out earth and land. And they also check the soil composition to make sure it's good, right? It's worthy of building on, that it can carry the weight. Then we put in forms of wood, and then, plumbing structures, electrical structures, different things, they're going to support, the future of the house. And then we're building this form to pour concrete, a slab. Now, I come from Florida. That's where we do this work. And we build this solid slab, very thick, very well designed, right? Once that's in place, the foundation is solid. That thing's not going to tilt. It's not going to teeter-totter. If it's done well, it's going to stay there for a long time. And whatever you put on top of it, it's going to be just fine. But if that thing tilts even just an inch, even if it's just a few, like a centimeter, what's going to happen? The whole structure and frame of the house is going to start to twist and crack, and you'll get cracks in the walls, cracks in the ceiling, all kinds of things. So most of us are not building on something that just shifts like a few centimeters or so. Like, most of us are building on a foundation, and have in the past built on a foundation that's just totally cracked, broken in different places. It's crumbling, and we're trying to build on that, and it does not work. I did this 7 times in my life, coming from a spiritually aligned background. Okay. I'm talking about from 21 forward, 7 times in my life. 6 times actually, 6 major relationships, and always building on a cracked foundation, getting a little bit more wisdom each time. But I can look at it and I'm like, man, I just really was not grounded. I did not have the excavation done thoroughly. I did not have a space for a solid foundation, and there was no solid foundation. I'll talk about what that is in a few minutes, but you guys get what I'm saying. So this is great. Connor's saying, what? No, not me. I'm always 100% authentic on the first date. Yes. And crumble, right? Exactly. This inauthenticity. I started learning, by the way, to be authentic. And that's a big one when dating, when connecting with another person, because I was just tired of experiencing all the pain. And I just said, let's have the real conversations now. And it changed everything in my dynamic. I wouldn't be able to be in the position I'm in relationship I'm in right now, the way I'm in a relationship right now, if I wasn't naked and raw. And I'm still living that, still practicing that daily, right? It's a constant self-examination, self-inquiry, and divine union, which I'll talk about in a bit. So, all right, let's answer this question. What do you do now based on everything that we've just covered? So there are 3 very clear and simple steps you can take. Number 1, start tracking and examining your emotional triggers in relationship. Why? Well, emotional triggers are unwanted gifts, right? We don't want to experience them, but they're a gift if we know how to work with them properly. They're very uncomfortable to feel, these emotional triggers, right? What happens, how we spiral down into whatever emotion we're experiencing, whether it's fear or anger or shame or grief, apathy, whatever emotion it is. But the cool thing about every emotion is that when we bring a conscious lens to it, they actually can lead us to heal. So we got to start tracking them. We got to notice when they show up, what situations. Hey, welcome, Roki. Not sure who that is. These YouTube names that show up don't make it clear who you are, and I don't see a clear profile picture, but I'd love to know who you are. Put your name in there too so I can know who you are whenever you pop in. So we got to notice when the emotional triggers happen, right? When they show up in our experience, what situations are activating, like what's going on. There are specific situations, dynamics in a relationship, and who's the person involved. And we don't need to just do this with our intimate partner, but all people, because every person that triggers us emotionally is exposing something that's unhandled, right? When we get reactive, that's an unconscious wound playing out its drama. And I learned that back in 2008 very clearly. I knew it a little bit earlier, but it wasn't as clear. I got clear insight and understanding, technical insight and understanding about the trigger and what it's made of and how it works and functions and even how to access it in 2008. In 2001, I became aware of those to some degree, and I was able to transform and heal a lot. But I went very distinct and mechanical in terms of like the definition of it around 2008. And the last number of years since then, it's just gotten deeper and richer. My understanding has grown. When we look at them this way, we actually can completely revolutionize the core of our being. And that gives us the opportunity to invite healthy relationship into our life. So with the right support, also, you can examine those emotional triggers very deeply, very intimately, follow them all the way to their root. And that's where you're going to uncover what I call the core wound. That's the core wound. That's the bottom of the bottom. Okay, that is the source point of all your reactivity, all the problems that you have, all the chaos in your life. These core wounds, they drive everything not good in your life. Okay, it's the source of all the emotional charge. But when you face it consciously, become fully aware of it, feel it, and then embrace it, right? Not just feel the discomfort of it or the pain of it, but actually embrace it with a sense of love and compassion. That's how you heal it. And I've been spending the last few years of my life dedicated to walking people through this process. Honestly, it's not something that we do alone. I've tried for 10 years to do this work. I knew how to do this work 10 years after my marriage, and I was unable to heal my wounds in that marriage and the deeper wounds underneath it until I had people surrounding me that I trained even in this work to provide and hold space for me, because I knew what to do, but knowing what to do was not allowing me to access my subconscious emotions and feelings. No matter how hard I tried, they were just so deeply buried, and I had so many mechanisms in place to avoid accessing and feeling that. It shut them down so hard. And I found this with a lot of people that I work with. So don't feel bad is my point. If you haven't been able to do this and you've been intentional about it, it honestly is something we have to get vulnerable in a healthy way and let people in to serve and support us. And it takes the right kind of people to make this happen. Some of you have been doing this work already. If you've done a little bit of this work already, I'd love to hear your comments on that. If you feel like commenting, you're inspired to share, that can open up some possibilities for people as well. So number 2, we got to clarify 3 core values, okay? The first thing we're doing is tracking and examining our emotional triggers. That's a distinct area of work in itself, work within. The next bit of work within that we got to do is clarify 3 core values minimally, okay? If your core values are unclear, then they won't be able to guide your relationship choices. Your emotions will be guiding all of your relationship choices. Your unconscious feelings and the fear and the trauma and, basically the fantasy is going to be controlling what you're choosing from instead of the core values, okay? This was first introduced to me by Annie Lala, and she shared with me the importance of having a relationship that's aligned in their values. And core values are what make a relationship strong. I didn't even know anything about that at the time that she had mentioned it. And it made a lot of sense, but I still didn't know what my core values were fully. So if your core values are unclear, like I said, they're not going to guide your relationship choice at all. Why? Because you have no idea what they are. You will be choosing on how you feel, what's familiar, okay? And what you feel is anchored in what's familiar. And what's familiar is what you've already been through. And what you've already been through includes a lot of those painful things you haven't handled yet. And so you attract a relationship that's going to demand that you finally handle it. But what ends up happening most often and more often than not is that instead of handling the pain that's showing up, we react, we try to control, we try to fix, we try to change the person, or maybe we try to change ourselves. We don't actually deal with it in the right way. And we just stack another unsuccessful relationship, another unsuccessful relationship, right? Another one failed, bam, in the dust, crumbled. We just stack them, boom, boom, boom. And we get further from what we need to do, what we need to see, what we need to face and feel so we can embrace and heal. And we're certainly not coming from a place of truth. So a core value is not something superficial like, I hike, I'm a spiritual person, I play video games or something like that. Not that I play video games, I'm saying like, these are the things that sometimes people are looking for. I want someone to go hiking with. I want someone who's spiritual. I want someone who, maybe just likes to chill and watch Netflix. These kind of superficial dynamics in relationship. This is not going to be a powerful place for choosing a healthy partnership. All right. You got to have these deeply held principles, these core values of yours that are positive and supportive, that really shape how you live, how you love, and how you lead in your life. Clear. Otherwise, you cannot choose from a core value. Core values are internal anchors. They are these truths that you return to when your emotions are high, when conflict arises, when your emotions are low, or when you're choosing between connection with someone or a compromise, right? Just to people please or to look good, right? Your core values, when established and anchored firmly, right? They give you power. I've been working with a lot of clients recently in this area, and it's amazing to see how these core values are just not established. It's the looking good, it's the people pleasing, it's the gaining approval, it's avoiding rejection, right? It's these motivations to make them happy, make them like me, not lose their love. It's already starting from a place of fear. It's already starting from a place of pain avoidance, which is going to inevitably lead to us confronting the pain again, right? So it's not healthy to build from that. When you clarify your top 3 values, they end up becoming like your GPS in relationship, right? They guide you, right? Most of us have no GPS. We don't know where we are, but you have to know where you are and submit that to the, Google Maps, let's say, before they could tell you how to get to the destination you want to go to. So if your destiny in your imaging mindset is, I want to have this beautiful, magnificent, divine relationship, great, that's a beautiful destination. Where are you? I don't know, right? So you can't get any guiding lines that take you to your destination. We got to know where we are. The core values, the top 3 at least, become these like triangulation points that help the system know this is where I am and that's where I'm going, right? Knowing where you want to be is important too. And then now you have a clear path to get there and you won't deviate left or right. Because if you're trying to drive to another city and you're heading that way and all of a sudden like, oh, that looks cool, let's stop over here. And you get off at this exit and then you're off at the exit and you're in this little town. You're like, oh, this looks cool, let's go over here. It's like, all right, that may be great to wander and get lost, but you certainly are not going to make it to the destination that you had committed to prior, right? When you don't have like a clear path or a clear destination, you don't have a clear path. If you want to go to the store, that's where you're going, you go straight to the store, right? You don't just start driving all over town just for the fun of it. All right. If you want to do that, you can, but it's not going to lead you to your destination. So clarify those top 3 values. And this helps you set clear boundaries. It helps you determine whether there's compatibility or not. And it helps you build love that actually aligns with who you really are instead of the inauthentic you that you're presenting in order to be liked, to make them feel good, to gain their approval, to avoid rejection, to avoid your disapproval. All right, so now I'm going to share with you a few examples of real core values in relationship. These might be ones that you want to write down. Number 1 is integrity. I value truth. I value transparency. I value alignment between, someone's words and their actions, even if it's uncomfortable for us to fulfill on that, right? We just do what we say we're going to do. It's integrity. It's powerful. Or at least honoring the word that we speak and cleaning up, right? When we mess up, when we don't follow through. That's important to me. Emotional responsibility is number 2. I take ownership of my triggers, of my reactions, and of my own healing instead of blaming other people. I might feel hurt and I might in my mind want to blame this person, but I have deeply developed training and practices that pull me back towards my center and make me examine myself and say, what is it that I'm at cause for? How did I produce this result? What did I not see within myself? What did I fail to communicate, right? What's my responsibility for this experience? All right. So emotional responsibility, but total responsibility is a big value. Number 3 is spiritual alignment. All right. I made this mistake a number of times. So for me, I seek a connection that honors and includes my relationship with God, with the divine as the center of my being. I had a profound awakening in the year 2000. I experienced God as the very center, source, and cause of my existence. I was experiencing the life eternal, and it changed everything for me. It was the most powerful and brilliant and secure experience I've ever known in my life. So I have to have a partner who is at least interested in experiencing that and developing in that, because if not, it's going to be like this wonky thing. And I've been in a relationship and not had that compatibility, not had that match. And it just doesn't work. It hasn't been like a disastrous thing, but it's this like creeping, this dis-ease, like this kind of like this, not feeling. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, got back. Thank you for the communication on that. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that it went out. So I'm not sure where we went out. Thank you for the, okay. So I was saying the last point, mutual growth. I want a partnership where we both challenge and support each other to evolve into our highest selves, where we can be honest and truthful, where we are committed to correction of ourselves and open to feedback. The fifth one, the fifth value that I share is safety and respect. Super important. I require this environment where I feel emotionally safe and seen and honored without manipulation or control. I'm okay with challenges. I'm okay with a bit of conflict. We need to have, the freedom to have conflict and navigate it successfully. And that's really important. Thanks for sharing that, Connor. Connor said, love your values. They're very similar to mine so far. Great. And, it's important that safety and respect is there. Okay, conflicts are going to happen in relationship, not a problem. But we bring safety and respect back into the relationship dynamic as soon as possible. And, that's a commitment. And I know, and I have been in relationship, and I've been the person at points in my life where I'm not going to do that. I'm not willing to do that, right? I'm right, you're wrong, you're bad, I'm good, and it's all your fault, And I'm not looking at me, you need to fix you. Just doesn't work, right? Or I don't care how you feel. I've had a relationship tell me, you don't have any needs, that's all in your head, it's all you, doesn't matter. Oh, the word, it doesn't matter. How about that? It doesn't matter, right? You're like, man, I'm feeling really disappointed here and I want to work this out with you. Doesn't matter. You don't need anything from me. It's like, oof, there's just no mutuality, I'll just say. All right, so that's the second point of what there is to do. The third one is to start asking this question. And please write down your core values. Start asking this question is number 3. Am I choosing from truth or reliving an old trauma in a new disguise? Am I choosing from truth or reliving an old trauma in a new disguise? So we have to ask ourselves this hard question. A lot of times we start dating, we get very attached to a person. Why? Because we're hoping that this person is going to solve all our problems of pain and relationship emptiness and all that's a bad place to build relationship from the beginning. We start from that beginning, we're hurt. We're ending up hurt sooner or later. We need to ask ourselves up front, am I choosing from truth or am I reliving this old trauma that I've had in a new disguise? Okay, we got to get conscious to this. Am I drawn to this person because they align with my values, with my vision, with my mission, with my calling, and who I'm committed to being? Or because they unconsciously feel like someone I had to earn love from in the past, or someone I just felt was part of my life, that maybe wasn't even a healthy person, but there was some kind of pleasure and goodness there, but there was also a lot of problems and chaos and pain there. Am I attracting from familiarity? Am I falling into connection with this person or love, as I might think I'm falling into love? Not really with this person, but you got to ask the hard question, okay? And then, am I choosing from truth, which feels peaceful, clear, and grounded? Or am I choosing from trauma, which often feels intense? There's this anxiety, there's an urgency, or maybe it just feels strangely familiar, like I've said, but it's not actually safe. Then we can be sure when we're in that position, there's something unprocessed within and we're not attracting from a great place. So the moment you ask this question honestly, you're going to begin to reclaim your power to choose love consciously. The question is, am I choosing from truth? Or am I reliving an old trauma in a new disguise? Okay. I've repeated the problems in relationship multiple times. I didn't even know this question was a thing. I sure wish I did. So if this resonates, let me know. Just type the word resonate in the comments if you're down, if you're open to engagement and sharing. Also lets other people know that you're vibing with this, that they're connected to other people besides me here. There's a whole world that vibes with what we're sharing here, I'm sure, that really needs this kind of information. So please communicate and share, what you're learning with other people. My purpose isn't just to, reach you. I hope that other people will get through you access to these distinctions, to these experiences. Maybe you could share the replay video with them later if you feel called to do that. Or even better, talk with them about it, because that helps you process the information. Share this with people. When you share, it multiplies and expands, becomes part of your own living experience. So by all means, share what you're learning here with other people, because that's why I share so much, because it keeps it alive for me. And I would love for you to really make this work for you, because that's what I'm living for. My purpose is to see people's lives healed and transformed and empowered on a grand scale. So it starts right here with us. So now in the intro workshop, it's important for you to know that key one is reflected in week one, or from week one, which is, where am I choosing from? Okay, week one is, where am I choosing from? We're going to go a lot deeper with this first mirror self-inquiry process, where live partner practices are present to reveal more precisely where your patterns are coming from. This is going to allow you to bring the unconscious conscious and dismantle the trauma triggers that have been controlling your relationship choices. Doing this work with others is great. It opens up so much more. When you hear other people sharing, it's just like, wow, it's accelerated compounding growth and development. You're going to be supported in small breakout dyads there. We do powerful feedback, which allows you to see things that maybe you can't see, all in a safe context. You'll leave with new clarity on what truth-based choosing actually looks like and feels like. Choosing from core values, your core authenticity, which is truth. All right, so if that vibes with you, let's go. Thanks for the resonate. Losing volume at this point. Let's see. So I'm not alone. Okay, yeah, you're not alone. Definitely. I'm glad you get that. Key number 2 is called purifying perception. The work within comes first. So this is related to week 2 in the upcoming training in a few weeks, called the Forge: Healing the Past, Purifying Perception, and Empowering Your Potential. I've put together some very powerful tools called forge frames. And a forge in this case is, the place where metalworking happens, right? Where metals are heated up and they're hammered and shaped, or ore, rock with metals contained in it, is broken up and heated up, and the metals are distilled and purified, and, then they can be shaped and formed. Anyway, metalworking happens here. It's a crazy intense process. And it's very much like the work that we do in transformation. It's intense sometimes. It's deep. It requires heat. It requires bending and flexing. It requires purification. It also requires tempering. And then ultimately we become a tool, or we become a weapon, in a healthy sense of the word weapon. Like, we just cut through bullshit. We cut through lies and deception, where before we were just like overrun by it. So this part of the training, key number 2, is reflecting week number 2 in the 6-week training. And the forge frames are tools where you get to access your conscious, subconscious mind, emotions and feelings and sensations, and create radical transformations. So that's what this is reflecting here. Now, I want to tell you, you can't clearly see through a lens that's been cracked by experiences of grief, betrayal, or regret that are still unprocessed or incomplete within you. So repair begins within. Until you clear this lens of your perception, until you purify your perception, you'll keep projecting pain where peace wants to be born. You're going to hear me say this often. Perception precedes performance and production. Perception precedes performance and production. I would write that down and I would put that on your wall, because if you master this distinction I'm creating, which is a universal law, if you master this, understand it, know how to apply it, you can transform any situation. All of the work that I do is built on this one law. Perception precedes performance and production. How you perceive people, situations, and yourself determines how you perform. It's a fact 100% of the time. And it ultimately will determine what you produce, right? The results. So it's a spiritual and a psychological law. 100% of the time. That means it always happens this way, every moment of every day of your life. So imagine driving with a fogged up or cracked windshield. The road ahead is not broken. It's not fuzzy, but your view of it actually is, right? You can't tell the difference though. And if you can't tell the difference, you're going to react to the distortions that you see instead of the truth, right? So imagine you're looking out at the road and there's like crumbs or rocks or something on the road, and you think that stuff's on the road, and you try to swerve out of the way because what you see on the glass is what you think is actually out there. You can get yourself into an accident, right? So what you got to do is slow down, And pay attention to what your attention is on, actually, and whether it's coming from within or if it's really coming from without. So as the metaphor of the car, if there's this dirty windshield, you might slow down where you actually need to accelerate, right? Because you're afraid something's in the way. So in relationship, we can slow down and we can just withhold our love, our affection, because we're afraid, because our dirty perception lens is coloring what's in front of us. Or we crash into things that, were never really there, right? Like we crash into things that really didn't have to be crashed into, right? Like we end up swerving to miss that thing because we're sure that the partner that we're with has got this problem or this thing, but that's our perception lens that's, projecting this image upon them, and we're trying to avoid that, and we get ourselves into trouble. Or, right, we speed up because we think we need to go faster to get into this relationship, and actually we need to slow down, but we just can't see that there is a real hole in the freaking road, or a rock in the road, or some kind of obstruction, right? Like if we can't see that obstruction and we just keep driving, we crash right into it. A lot of us are managing our relationship this way. So I'm going to talk to you quickly about the role of the shadow. The shadow is a very simple term. We often project onto others what is hidden in the shadow, right? The shadow is the rejected, the denied, or the disowned parts of ourselves. That's it. And we call it shadow because just like in the physical world, when light is blocked by something, some object, it casts a shadow. An area where there's less light, right? And so there's parts of our psychology and emotionality even that are buried in this invisible or less visible domain called the shadow. The shadow contains both negative and positive traits that we've learned to suppress or to shame, right? Somebody made them wrong in the past, and now we just don't ever want to see them again. And that's long forgotten. Now it just becomes a part of what we are and how we see the world. When those parts of us are not brought into light, when they're not healed, they don't disappear. They actually distort how we see others. Okay, here's some examples that I'm going to share with you to help you understand how this works in relationship. So you can project distrust onto someone that is kind, not because they're unsafe, but because your own suppressed innocence was once violated and now trust feels dangerous. You might see someone as arrogant or selfish, not because they are, but because you've denied your own desires to take up space or assert your needs. And I've run into people like this many times actually, right? They complain about people in their lives that are pushy or whatever, but they're really just very passive and they're not speaking up for what they want. They don't communicate, boundaries that they don't want people to cross. And they just kind of resent and get bitter and complain and behind people's back, or to the person, but they're just not realizing that they're avoiding their own power in some way. Another form of projecting the shadow is, when we idolize someone, when we project goodness, perfection, purity onto them, that's because we've exiled our own light, right? We've just shunned it and shut it out, and we don't believe it actually lives in us at all. So until these distortions are revealed and until they're healed, your relationships will be filtered through this unresolved pain, these shadow conditions. So here's what you can do now as a practice. Start practicing self-inquiry in this format, asking yourself specifically this question: what is it that I see in this person that I may be rejecting or denying in myself? Very simple question. What do I see in this person that I may be rejecting or denying within myself? And then you can continue journaling to explore the different emotional charges that show up around this inquiry that you're making. And this can point to the shadow material as well, right? Looking deeper into relationships and exploring how you feel, what emotion triggers are there. This can reveal some more of the shadow material. All right. When we bring it out of shadow, out of darkness and into the light, it loses its ability to distort our perception. That's part of the work within. So name one trait that you know right now, just to yourself. You can write this down, that you're ashamed of, and one gift that you've been hiding out of fear. Okay? So there's a trait that you have, characteristic that you're ashamed of. You don't want anyone to really know this about you or see this about you. And then also writing one gift about yourself that you've been hiding out of fear. Fear of being judged, rejected, made wrong. Okay? So you can do that work on your own. You feel free to comment any of that if you like. If you feel free to do so, I'm not obligating you to do that. So have you ever caught yourself reacting strongly to a person in your life and then later realized it wasn't really about that person? If you've run into this, then type the word mirror in the chat if you're seeing how this has played out or might even be playing out right now. Maybe there's something you're reacting to in someone. I know right now we're in a very heavily charged political conversation, and there's a lot of projection going on because there's a lot of illuminated shadows in the people in the background. So we look to the powers that be, and we project and we overlay our story and whatever it is that we're suppressing or denying, or maybe we feel like a victim, so we project the persecutor onto that person, or vice versa. It can be any way around, right? It's just maybe we project that they're a victim. I've been through all of this myself, and so it's unfortunate because we can't see clearly when our perception is this skewed, right? And we can't make intelligent decisions, informed decisions that actually make a difference. We end up just becoming part of the conflict. We add fuel to the fire. We cause more problems than we do anything to solve anything. We polarize people even further. That's a big part of the problem in the political domain right now, is that there's just tremendous polarization, people against people, and all in the name of some political superficial story they're getting strictly from news media right now, right? Social media and news media. And there's some facts, there's some what's happening, there's some stuff that is happening, but a lot of what's actually being seen is the story, the narratives, the feelings and emotions are being manipulated, and many people are just unconscious. They don't see this. And so they become sucked right into it. And the same thing can happen at a smaller scale in our relationships. We get sucked into these confusing dramas and crazy cycles. So in the 6-week workshop, if you're interested in going deeper and doing this work in a safe, secure, and supportive space, I'm going to guide you through shadow integration practices, live partner mirroring exercises. We're going to look at this inner child repair opportunity, which is really cool, to gently bring the shadow into light and set ourselves free from unconscious control dynamics, right? Things that drive us and our behavior, especially in ways that cause us problems, especially in ways that cause our relationship problems. So you'll be able to experience the kind of group presence and, non-judgmental reflection that makes it safe for us to see in the darkness in the first place. It allows healing to happen faster and much deeper than us just trying to figure it out alone. Honestly, cognitively, it's impossible to access these deeper things. We need the presence of others to get the emotional somatic clearing at the deep level. And that's just what I've observed. Whether you do that here in my upcoming training or somewhere, either way, however it is, start exploring this for yourself. Because I promise you, there's nothing faster than group work. It's why I do groups today. I've been doing this stuff for years. I've tried so many different things. And in the group context, it just compounds and accelerates transformation. All right, we transform together. We don't just talk about it, we do the work. All right, key number 3. Been taking a little bit longer here, excuse me. Oh, my nose is itching. Key number 3. Sacred union cannot be faked. It begins with the divine third. So it's based on week 3, God as the unifying field. Now that word God, I know the word God is laced with all kinds of meaning. I'm going to ask you to bear with me, because when I say the word G-O-D, I don't mean what a lot of people mean. Don't fit me into a box. Don't put me into any religious container because I don't fit. Okay? I embrace so many different religious perspectives with love and interest and curiosity, even to this day. And I'm more interested in truth than I am about belief systems. I have no tolerance for belief systems that are unvalidated, untested, unproven, right? I don't do superstition. I don't do any of that stuff. Okay. For me, God is a word that describes the substance, source, and the cause of all that is, including me and you. Okay. And we can experience that because I've experienced this since 2001, 2000, sorry. So the year 2000 had my first real encounter with this thing that people call God. And it was not a religious thing at all. It was an experience. I learned about religion a little bit before that, was not into religion really. And then I've got deeper over the years, and I found that many people inside of these big religions and other spiritual, groups have been communicating things that I found to be true in my experience. But when I'm talking about God, listen, I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different than you may be thinking. Okay. So hear me out. We spend a lifetime trying to make other people our source of safety, our source of identity, or our healing, or our purpose, even our love. I know I have. Let's not be shy about admitting this. We got to get truthful before we can break the lies, right? So authentic sacred union does not start when you find the right person. A lot of our energy in relationship goes to finding the perfect match, the perfect person, the perfect one. And we spend all this energy out there. I did, I know. And it never worked, okay? Never worked. Dating apps, even I've done all kinds of exercises and things to try and find out who my right person is. And I found that the real work is deep within. That creates a space, an environment. I become an environment that invites in healthy relationship. Either I am or I am not, okay? So it doesn't matter what I want consciously. My subconscious is going to determine the ultimate outcome, no matter how clean and beautiful my conscious awareness is around relationship. I know, because I had beautiful images of relationship in my conscious mind, but I kept getting into painful situations. Why? It's driving me bonkers. All right. Type bonkers if you've been crazy about this in the past. You're like, why am I getting these crazy relationships? I'm a good person. I love and I want love and good love and true love. And I'm conscious of this, but I keep having crazy love, just bonkers, right? If that's you, comment bonkers. All right. So authentic sacred union does not start when with you finding the right person. It's starting when you become the right person. And how does that happen? When you put the divine at the center of your relationship design. And this took me years to figure out as well. And when I say figure out, I've tested things. I'm a scientist. I don't believe anything. I don't care about belief systems of any kind. I don't care what it is. If I cannot prove it in my own experience, it's not real for me. It just sits on the shelf as a concept. And I know the difference. A lot of people don't know the difference between their concepts and beliefs, right? And then reality. Reality is verifiable, proven by direct experience, direct observation. And yes, God can be experienced directly. I am living proof of it. You don't have to believe me because that would go against my own core principles. I don't want anyone to believe me. What I want is people to explore truth for themselves. So I'm not talking about, any particular set of religious beliefs when I talk about the divine at the center of your relationship. I'm not talking about deeply held convictions that different spiritual groups or religions have about relationship or marriage or any of that. In fact, sometimes and many times even, those can become a damaging factor in relationship. How do I know? I've tested them. I believed in them. I believed in what they said. And then I found it didn't work. And I found there were other things missing that I didn't have that really do make the difference. What I'm sharing with you now is the stuff that makes the real difference in relationship, not the superficial belief crap that I've heard in all kinds of religious, spiritual dimensions. It's crazy what's out there. So I'm speaking about each person seeking and having a direct experience of divinity within themselves. Okay? This is a pursuit of truth. In my pursuit of truth for over 26 years now, I've discovered that God is the center, source, and cause of all that arises in existence, and God is the unifying field that sustains and holds it all together. It's something I can be aware of, and I can breathe in it. I can witness it. I can feel it through my being. It's become real for me. Okay. There was a time in my life where that was not the case. So I understand when that's not real for someone. You can believe in it temporarily until you get an experience as a possibility. But I don't like anyone to believe things that they haven't verified and then teach or preach or try to share something that they just believe, right? That they don't know for sure is true. It's important to find out. I found that many religions do reveal pieces of truth, as I mentioned before, but the truth has to be encountered as one's own living experience. God can be known as an inner, intimate presence that we can commune with and be guided by, right? It's something that we can experience, but we have to be open to that experience, but not believe it blindly as if it's true without us knowing. It's more like investigating the possibility, okay? When we bring our mind, which is this masculine logical zone, and our heart, which is the emotional feminine zone, into the inner fountain of life, the source from which the mind and the heart come from, we're actually guided to this inner marriage of the head and the heart. And this is happening for me now in a deeper way. It started happening a few years ago. And I felt my mind and my heart starting to marry. And I realized the real relationship I'm looking for is the one within myself first. This becomes individual wholeness within. This is actually the intended nature of our divine design. And I have discovered this. When I'm in harmony with me internally at a deep, intimate level, it's wow. And there's this third unifying factor, which I call God, which is the source and the substance of it all. And I'm supported fully. My mind and my heart are supported. And there's this third party presence called God in me that brings my mind and my heart together. Okay, that's the foundation that we must build from. A relationship with another human being is really meant, as I've discovered, to mirror this dynamic nature of the divine. But because we've not had this divine union within ourselves, our relationships end up reflecting the fragmentation of our own incomplete version of ourselves and also our unhealed past, right? We don't experience union within, so how in the world can union happen out there? We experience a world out there that reflects the world in here. But it's possible to bring the world within into union. So sacred union doesn't happen when two incomplete people come together. I promise you it's a mess, and you already know that if you're old enough to have a relationship. It happens when two whole people are each living in union with divinity, when they unite with God at the center together, because they're united with this thing that I call God. Remember, God is the unifying field of life and all possibility, limitless love, all the goodness. Right? It's the background substance of all that can be, right? And we can experience that. And when two people have that at the center of their relationship, it's amazing. Here's a metaphor. Love without God is like this compass without a true north, right? We have no idea what we're going for. We might feel strong emotions, passion, or potential, but without a higher point of alignment, we can still end up directionless, totally codependent, spiritually exhausted, right? Emotionally exhausted in our relationship. Real love needs a shared source to stabilize it when the storms come. Each partner needs to have their own source of love, their own source of power and inner instruction or guidance and correction, or else they mistakenly try and get it from the other person. Well, the universe, I have found, and our own human design is hardwired to never receive total satisfaction from without, right? We have to find it from within. As Jesus has famously and simply said, the kingdom of God is within you, right? And so I have encountered this kingdom within. There is a dominion of power and life and vitality. The very center of my being is the tree of life. My brain and my nervous system and my body, right, are all in this beautiful union within. I'm infilled by the substance that brings forth all of creation. And when I'm aware, consciously aware and intimately in union with the substance from which all creation arises, wow, I feel love, I feel power, I feel whole, I feel complete inside. Like I'm good, you know? I'm not going to be trying to get that from somebody else. So what to do now? A few things to do on this key. Begin a 3-way prayer practice, okay? Between you, the divine, and the other person, whether they're with you now or not, maybe for the future. Okay, this is what I did before I met my significant other. I just really sought union within, I was looking for a marriage between the mind and the heart. I knew I needed that. I knew I was in conflict in myself, and I knew I needed to marry the inner. So you want to connect your relationship intentions through this sacred dialogue called prayer. Prayer is where you take your ego, which thinks it's in control and it has all knowing and all power, which it doesn't. And you know it doesn't, because you run into crap all day long based on your ego failing to fulfill success in your life for you, right? It just gets you into trouble, and you know it. You have limited understanding. But when you bring that limited understanding, your sense of self, into this sacred space within, where you're communing with some higher intelligence, higher power, a greater source of love than you can muster in your own little mini identity, in your own little individuality. When you start to commune and converse and dialogue, right, prayer, your conscious mind and the ego structures start to relax and surrender, and you get in touch with the superconscious. Okay? And yes, you're one with this. You're not separate, but the ego believes it's separate. The ego is a belief structure, and it's very rigid. And when we pray, we soften that structure. It's like, imagine a seed that's dry and hard, and it needs to be wet and watered, and then eventually it can soften and it'll crack open and it can sprout. Okay, so when we pray, our ego seed, which is necessary to survive in the world in a sense, it's not all bad, but it keeps us separate and isolated, and there's no real growth from the ego. The ego is very rigid and hard shell. But when we pray, it's like watering that seed of our ego mind, and it softens the walls, and it allows us to sprout forth this new life from within. You have to try this. You have to explore this. You have to be open. And you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be part of any particular religious organization. It's a personal thing. And I advise everyone to test this for themselves. See what happens. Explore it. See how it feels, right? Be an experimenter. Only you're going to know what's really real and true for you. You don't need anybody to preach to you about it and tell you how it's supposed to be, right? They can guide you. They can inspire you, give you some instruction. But unless you practice, you don't know. So I'm inviting you to do that. So this means learning to surrender to this higher power, this intelligence, this love within you. You got to believe that that's a possibility. Okay, you don't have to believe that it's true, but you need to believe that it's a possibility that you can realize. Okay, that's the experimenting attitude. Okay, it's a hypothesis. Maybe there is a higher intelligence. Maybe there is a higher love. Maybe there's a higher power within me that I can have access to. I'm open to that. So you need to be open and explore it and test it. See what you find. And you also need to consider the possibility that this will bring you and your significant other together under this higher power, intelligence, and love. Okay? Even if you're single, especially if you're single, actually, you can begin a communion with prayer and curiosity that's going to help you receive instruction and support from God within. And that's going to be a great foundation to build from. It's what I've done. It's beautiful. You must practice this regularly, though, and get over your own resistance to it, because it's not natural for some of us, many of us, most of us probably. Like anything else, it takes practice. It becomes easier when you have consistent and focused practice in it. So now ask yourself, where have I made someone else responsible for my sense of wholeness, my sense of worth, or my stability? Okay? Just go ahead and answer that question for yourself. Meditate on it for a moment. Where have I made someone else responsible for my sense of wholeness, worth, or stability? Make a list, maybe. Get clear on this. It's going to shed a lot of light on your past perceptions that controlled your performance and your partnership choices and the production or the results in your life. Also ask and reflect on this question. Am I seeking someone to complete me or someone to co-create with me? Am I seeking someone to complete me or someone to co-create with me? So it's time to get really real with yourself. The pain that we're hiding that drives us into codependent dynamics is not easily uncovered, right? We often choose to be fooled so that we can avoid the unprocessed pain. We fool ourselves. We don't want to see what's going on inside, really. We got to be aware of that. So ask yourself these questions. Now, if you've ever lost yourself in love, if you've ever given your power to someone and called it intimacy, just drop the word lost in the comments or the chat. This is really your moment to reclaim alignment with the truth of who you are. And if you're ready to make the marriage within through your divine center, just drop the word union in the chat and the comments below. It's time to establish union within and ultimately the invincible union. So in week 3 of the Invincible Union Invincible Love training workshop, there's going to be this working together to rebuild what I call the inner altar. Okay. Instead of going to a church and an outer place and, putting our objects on the altar out there, the altar is actually symbolically pointing to something within us. And we're going to bring ourselves to the inner altar. We're going to realign with the divine as our true source of identity, the true source of safety, the true source of our clarity. You're going to end up writing a sacred union vision statement so that you can get clear in your mind's eye and imagination and your heart about what's possible within you, okay, the kingdom within. And you'll be supported through group prayer and spiritual alignment practices and have the opportunity for reflections that affirm the wholeness within. Before anyone else enters the picture, okay, you want to get this established for you in your own way. You want to be clear. And this is another form of a core value, right? Your own divine union internally. Right? So we don't just talk about putting God at the center. We actually give you a space, a structure, and sacred support to experience it. Okay? There's no indoctrination. There's nothing to believe. There's a exploratory experimenting to discover what's really there for you. And I promise you, just being in this process of experimenting opens up things that you've never been able to access before. And it becomes alive for you, right? And that matters, okay? What you believe could be real, could be not real. Who knows? We don't care about that. What we care about is you experiencing what's alive and real for you so that you stop building love on human potential alone. And then you can start designing real love from divine presence. Okay. So let's recap. You now have heard me share about and give you understanding around why your past might be choosing your partners for you, why purifying your perception has to come before clarity or connection, and why sacred union begins with God, not with another person. Okay? It starts from within, starts from you experiencing the fullness of you. But insight, right? Knowing all of this without taking any action is really just theory. We want you to get powerfully transformed. So that's why I've created that 6-week experience in the future. And I also have part 2 of this training happening next week so we can go even deeper and even further, which I'll cover the next 3 keys, which are correlative to the second 3 weeks of the 6-week training experience. If you found value here, you're going to love next week as well. So I want to help you apply all this in real time with support and feedback and transformational connection. If you're interested, I'll share more of that with you later. Just drop the words Invincible Love in the comments if you'd like me to send you some information on how to join the 6 weeks. The Invincible Love, where we're creating a blueprint for relationship readiness, repair, and realizing sacred union training. If you want to participate in that or at least look at that, I'll send you some info. Like I said, there's no obligation for you to join, but I'll be happy to share it with you if it vibes with you. So what's your biggest takeaway so far? You can drop a word or a phrase, a comment in the chat below. I want to hear what's landing for you. And thank you for the comments. And yeah, you guys are on fire. This is great. Thanks, Connor. Thank you all for being here. It's such a blessing to have you guys with me. I'm so grateful. We're going to go into a mini activation that I'm titling the Superconscious Clearing and Centering for Sacred Union. So if you're down to join me for that, get comfortable. It's going to be about 5 minutes or so. I'm going to keep it short and we'll wrap up. Went a little bit longer than I expected in this training, but excited to have you with me. You're more than welcome. Thank you for being here. I would like you to really soak this in now. Okay, we covered a lot with this mini activation, the Superconscious Clearing and Centering for Sacred Union. It's going to give you a chance to really deeply ingest and digest what we've been exploring tonight. And even with all this, I know there's a lot of value here. I'm getting a lot of value out of sharing this with you, so I'm grateful for you. I'm sure you're getting value out of these distinctions and this reflective opportunity. We're going to go deeper now, and this is still just scratching the surface, but I love it. This stuff brings me a lot of excitement. So relax your body. Just sit still if you can. Just let go of everything else around you. Just take a few moments to turn inward. Allow your head to come into union with your heart and open up to that within you that already knows how to love, how to heal, and how to align with truth. So close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in through the nose. And then exhale through your mouth. You can sigh it out like, and soften the body. Let your shoulders relax. Let your face soften. Let your belly relax. Let your whole body soften. Let's breathe in through the nose again. And a mouth, sigh it out. Letting go of everything in the body. Through the nose in again. Mouth out, sigh it out. Softening the body. Good. And let's take a breath in and hold at the top. Just hold that breath in, relax the body, swallow your saliva, feel it running down, and just contemplate these words. I am safe. I am supported. I am ready to heal. I am safe. I am supported. I am ready to heal. Make your lips into a pinhole. Slowly exhale. Feel the words. I am safe. I am supported. I am ready to heal. Notice how that feels inside of you. I am safe. I am supported. I am ready to heal. And allow this to create within you whatever it's creating. This is your experience. I'm providing a little bit of guidance, but what happens within you is going to be uniquely yours. So give this time to yourself, this inner nurture, this inner sacred moment. And now ask your superconscious. Okay, that's the beyond the conscious and beyond the subconscious. This is the intelligence of the divine within you. Ask this question: where have I been choosing from pain, fear, or familiarity instead of truth? Don't try to force an answer. Get more interested in the question. The answers will come. Get the question clear. Where have I been choosing from pain, fear, or familiarity instead of truth? And let any particular moment or emotion come to the surface. Do your best to release any judgment that you notice about yourself or the experience. You don't have to get rid of it. Let it be there, but relax from it as best you can and simply welcome and observe whatever is surfacing. Thank you. Breathe into that space of whatever you're discovering. Breathe into the space and whatever it is that's showing up for you. Where have I been choosing from pain, fear, or familiarity instead of truth? Simply becoming conscious, becoming aware starts to set you free already. You can feel the release happening in your body just by becoming aware, just by being with the question. It doesn't take a lot of effort at all. These are very gentle processes. They make a huge difference. And now say to yourself, I welcome this part of me. I welcome this part of me. And I allow and choose to heal it now. Healing means wholeness. It comes into integrity with itself. No conflict anymore. No resistance, no more pain. There's no holes or cavities in it. All right, so just say, I welcome this part of me and I choose to heal it now. And just feel whatever you feel. Welcome your feelings, emotions, your thoughts. Let everything flow. Let everything be as it is. There's nothing to control or force in any of this. The more you relax and allow the divine potential in you to work, the better. This is all grace. It's given you freely. You don't have to struggle for this. Good. Welcome this experience. All right. So now we're going to visualize inviting in the divine. We're going to feel or visualize, emotionalize, imagine inviting God, the divine, perfect love, the source of all that is, truth itself, into awareness, into the very center of your relationships also. We're first going to invite it into awareness. And again, don't worry about getting an answer right now. Be more curious. Visualizing, imagining, feeling, sensing the presence of God, of perfect love, the source of all that is, the truth itself within you. Feel that as best you can, or open up to that as best you can. Curiosity is enough. You don't need anything more than curiosity. The answers are not coming from you. You simply be with the question. And whatever opening you create now is an opening that will continue to be open if you'll allow it to be open, so that you can receive the experience of God within. This perfect love, the source of all that is, the truth as it is. Okay, good. We're inviting that into you and in the center of your relationships. And now say silently or out loud, within, or express it. I no longer make others my source. I no longer make others my source. I center myself in the divine. I center myself in the divine. And just feel whatever's happening for you. Allow yourself to open up. You can loosen up your body if you need to move or adjust. I no longer make others my source. I center myself in the divine. And just feel whatever you feel. Feel your body soften. Feel yourself relax. Feel yourself inwardly supported. Feel the presence of grace, this gift of life, freely given you every single moment that you're breathing and your heart is beating. Feel your inner being coming back into alignment with the truth of what you are. This is a wonderful experience. Good. Okay, great. Bring your right hand to your heart now. Left hand to your lower abdomen. Feel into your body. Place your hand on your heart. Right hand on your heart, I should say. Left hand on your lower abdomen. Inhale one more time, nice and deep. And then exhale completely. Good. And say this final affirmative statement for yourself. I choose love from truth. I choose love from truth. I trust my healing. I trust my healing. I am ready for sacred union. I am ready for sacred union. And I am so worthy of my love. I am so worthy of my love. Good. Feel that in your body. Let's take a deep breath through the nose in. Mouth out. Good. Nose in. Mouth out. Nose in. Mouth out. Super big breath in and hold at the top. Hold that breath in. Relax the body. Swallow your saliva. Just feel the saliva running down to your belly like a seed of your intention dropping into the belly, the soil of being. Keep holding the breath gently. Soften a little more. Lips into a pinhole. Slowly exhale. Relax the body, let go. Let everything go and just be. Just be. And take a moment in the silence. This communion with your divine center. Nobody can give this to you. No one can take it away from you. We can only be distracted through the busyness of our mind, emotions, body, and the world around us. But when we pause and let go of all of that, you realize the truth is already within you. You realize ultimately that you are the truth. Go ahead and feel a little bit more of this immersion into the truth that you are at your core. Feel your mind, emotions, and body coming into alignment with your divine center. This is the power and the intelligence, the love that you've been longing for. It's already here. It's already now. It's already at the center of your being. Give yourself another moment to just welcome this in. But you're so worthy of this. Beautiful. Oh, it feels so wonderful. So wonderful. So wonderful. So grateful. Man, I'm so grateful. So grateful to be here with you. So grateful for this opportunity. So, notice what shifted. You can open your eyes now if you're ready, if they're still closed. Really take a moment to feel what has shifted. What do you notice different about your mentality, emotionality, your inner being? Feel free to comment that if you like. And I'm going to wrap up with just sharing with you that next week I'm going to cover part 2 in the Invincible Love intro training, like I mentioned at the beginning. And I'll cover 3 more keys. And all of the keys, the 3 from today and the 3 from next week, are part of this 6-week experience that I have mentioned you're welcome to join me in, which again will include the weekly guided partner and small group sessions, somatic healing, emotional repair practices, very real-time reflections and feedback from people in a very safe, supportive environment. You're going to get access to some forge frames, these powerful tools that I use to transform the unconscious and our perception of pain into power and even pleasure. There's going to be some weekly accountability practices and connections with a power partner for a lot more support and to guarantee that you get major, massive results. So feel free also to explore my Invincible Elite Leadership Coaching Pathway. If you're interested in leadership, or if you are a coach and you need support growing as a coach, I've got some amazing done-for-you systems. It's all in the description. You can click the link in the description and it'll take you to information about that. It's a very unique path. It's for only people who are really dedicated to serving others and leading others, who want to develop either a full career as a coach and a leader. I give you all the systems, tools, practices, and training that you need. It's extremely affordable compared to anything else out there that's not even as robustly well-developed as this. I know a lot of what's out there. I've put the best of the best in all of this in years of my coaching practice and training. So if you're a leader, if you're a healer, if you're a coach already, or you feel a calling to be that kind of person, this may be a path for you. There is no pressure from me ever to buy. These are always invitations. There has to be profound core alignment, and either it's there or it's not there. So check that out if that's you. This can be a very accelerated path to start stepping into earning an additional income if you have another job or some kind of career, but you have the time to take on a little bit of extra training and work and service toward others. Or if you want to go full time, I'm going to give you everything. I hold nothing back. So there's that. And let's see, if you're ready for this transformation in your life around relationship, comment, I'm ready. And thank you for the comments. Connor saying this is fantastic. Looking forward to next week. Super curious to hear what the 6 weeks looks like. Yeah, brother, I'll definitely reach out to you. All of you, I'll send you a link. I'll drop it in the comments here. Drop me your name here in the comments, just in case I can't find you through the YouTube name description, because it's not like YouTube's not like Facebook or Instagram or something like that, right? So I won't be able to chat with you directly either afterwards. So I may not recognize you. Drop your name. Tell me how to find you. Give me another social link somehow, some way, whatever you feel comfortable with. Or find me on social media. Find me on Facebook, right? And just send me a direct message. You can do that as well if you want to start a chat with me, and we can discuss other possibilities as we're going forward. So let's open up the space. What's coming up for you guys? Do a little reflection, explore on that. Write down, what you're noticing. Consider what you've experienced. Don't just run off from here into something else. Take a few moments. This is you investing into you, into your future, into your potential great and dynamic and powerful love relationship. So I advise you, take a few moments to write down and reflect on the questions that I've already given, and also what else may be showing up for you. Take some time to meditate on it. Go a little bit deeper for yourself. Is there any healing that might show up for you? Maybe you're getting clarity on your own personal and relational blueprint. All right. So do that. Get intentional about moving forward. Remember, this is more than relationship work. This is healing. This is about spiritual alignment with the cause, the source, the substance of life itself. And it is learning how to operate in leadership through love and divine intelligence. Okay. Bless you in every way. God enrich you and strengthen you with power according to the glorious might of the divine that already is within. I appreciate you being here. I look forward to connecting more, and I will see you next week, I pray. All right. Take care. I enjoyed this so very much. I will see you soon.